is up, A to Z Sports? We are live here. It is a Tuesday morning. No Titans practice today, so able to lock in, have a good full show for you guys this morning. Sam Phelan with Jack Gentry talking about the Titans' unofficial depth chart, which released yesterday, which to me, Jack, is always kind of the sign that training camp is here. We are in the preseason. We are in the weeds of all of this stuff because now we've got a depth chart to sift over and fire off some takes about. So going to be a good show today. We are going to react to the depth chart, kind of note what stood out to us the most, make some predictions a little bit later on about what we think could change about the depth chart over the next few weeks, then wrap it up with some throw and shade. Jack, you teased before the show to me that you've got an interesting shade for me this morning.
Mm-hmm.
I just have a very sad shade for the people. So going to be a great show. Excited. Before we get into it, Jack, tell everybody what to do.
Fun stuff coming up today. Depth chart talk. We finally got something to react to on the depth chart. So we want to hear from all you guys. In order to do that, we need y'all's help. If you don't mind, while you're filing in here, don't forget to like the show. Drop a thumbs up, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube. That helps us grow. That helps us reach new audience members. So please like the show if you're locking in with us this morning. Next, if you're watching on Facebook, sharing is caring. I encourage you all to share the show to just at least one of your Titans Facebook groups. We're all a part of them. I see a bunch of you guys in there all the time. I'm pretty active in there, just like scrolling mindlessly. So please share it to at least one of your Titans Facebook groups if you're watching on Facebook. If you're watching on YouTube and you don't have your notifications on already, what are we doing? I mean, the content is overflowing right now out at Titans training camp. Austin and Sam have you guys covered. You have every single angle you could ever imagine covered out there. So tap that bell icon at the top of your screen, turn your notifications on so you do not miss an update when A to Z Sports goes live or posts any Titans content to that YouTube channel. Don't miss it. If you're watching on Twitch and you're getting ready for work, you're at work, you're getting ready to get off work, no matter what shift you're working today, text that Twitch link around to a coworker, text it to your Titans text groups. If there's a coworker that's dragging at the office already, or maybe he just needs a little extra boost this morning, text him this Twitch link. We're going to get them fired up today, talking Titans. It's going to be a fun show, like I already said. So, Sam, let's go ahead and dive right into it.
Listen, Jack, I genuinely believe because, hey, the chat knows I am a Chicago Bears fan at heart who likes my Bears content. There is not the level of Bears content from training camp that exists here on A to Z Sports. The constant videos, tweets, like I sit on the sideline every day at practice and basically live tweet every rep that happens. If you don't have your notifications on for A to Z Sports during training camp and the preseason and all throughout the regular season to get every single update from practice, you are missing out. You are falling behind. There is somebody out there who knows more ball than you because they've been paying attention to A to Z and you haven't been. So you got to do that and make sure you, if you've got any friends that love the Titans, that they're doing that as well. Mean that 100% genuinely. But oh, you got something real quick?
Real quick. I was going to say we didn't talk about Twitter off the top, but I mean, now is a perfect time to curate a Titans like Twitter list. You can go make a list. You can add Sam. You can add some guys with boots on the ground out at camp to that list. Throw A to Z Sports in there. That way, all of your Titans content is nice and organized on Twitter, so you literally don't miss a rep from Titans training camp. Great way to do it on Twitter. We don't talk about Twitter to open the show, but it's another way to kind of keep you in the loop.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get into it. Let's do it officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered as always by the BetMGM app. I'm Sam Phelan. He is Jack Gentry, and this is A to Z Sports, Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, going live on weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show tweeted out segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline, and you can also check out TikTok, Instagram, Threads, and the aforementioned Twitter for more Titans content. We got to thank our sponsors this morning because they make it happen for us while they help out all of you. They are Wilson County Hyundai. Make Wilson County Hyundai a part of your new car buying process in Lebanon or at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. Farm Bureau Health Plans, better coverage, better rates, better service. Learn more about a plan for you at fbhp.com/ATOZ. And the Bone and Joint Institute, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Schedule an appointment at boneandjointtn.org. So, Jack, the Titans released the unofficial depth chart, which this is overreaction season. This is, all kinds of different things that you can take once the unofficial depth chart is released. It gives you a gauge, really, of where people stand right now and where the team currently views some of their players. So let's go over this real quick. I'll just show some of these on the screen. We will come back to these. Don't worry, this will not be your only time to see it. This sent out by the Titans. This is the offense on the unofficial depth chart. You see quarterback is obviously Will Levis down there at the bottom of your screen. A split between Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears. 3 wide receivers are DeAndre Hopkins, Tyler Boyd, and Calvin Ridley. As expected, Chigakonkwo and Josh Wiley split the tight end duties, and your offensive line left to right goes Latham, Skoronski, Cushenberry, Charles, and Petit Ferrer. Your defense, starting on the defensive line, it's Sebastian Joseph Day, Tavondre Sweat, Jeffrey Simmons, and then Arden Key and Harold Landry as the 2 outside linebackers. Kenneth Murray Jr. and Jack Gibbons are your top 2 inside linebackers. Sneed and Awuzie as the corners. Starting safeties, Amani Hooker and Jamal Adams. This, of course, was before the Quandre Diggs signing became official. That happened this morning. So interested in seeing if this looks any different when I get to training camp tomorrow morning and see if Quandre Diggs is added to this group. And then Roger McCreary as the nickel cornerback as well. Special teams, Nick Folk as the kicker, Ryan Stonehouse as the punter and holder, Mason Kinsey, the top punt returner listed by the Titans. Tajay Spears is the top kickoff returner. So with the new kickoff rules, obviously that is significant. And then Morgan Cox, the long snapper, as expected. So Jack, that is the quick version of the starters. And we are going to get into all 3 of these and get into the starters, get into the backups. We're going to break all of it down. So we do have a question this morning that I will ask the chat, and then we will kind of dive into the weeds about this. So I want to ask the chat off the bat here, what stands out most from the Titans' first unofficial depth chart? Let's just get right into it. Figure out what the chat thinks. What stands out most about the Titans' first unofficial depth chart? And while everybody is firing off your answers in the chat, I'm going to tell you all about Smoky Mountain Tops. If you're thinking about updating your kitchen or bath countertops, call the pros at Smoky Mountain Tops. Family owned and operated for 30 years, Smoky Mountain Tops has installed over 100,000 projects. 100,000 projects. You've seen their work at Bridgestone Arena, Neyland Stadium, and Smoky Mountain Tops would love the opportunity to earn your business. They're proud to offer the luxurious Handstones Opimo Quartz collection as seen at their studio in Nashville and Knoxville, with over 50 color and unique patterns to draw inspiration from. Hey, you need countertops. Call Smoky Mountain Tops to schedule an appointment and see the beautiful Handstone Opimo Quartz at 615-922-6539. And tell them you heard about them here on A to Z Sports. So, Jack, we're asking the people, here's the offense, here's the defense, here's the special teams. We can spend a little bit of time so that people can just check these out a little bit. But we're asking the question, what stood out most to you from the depth chart? Jack, do you have like an answer that came to mind when you looked at this for the first time? What did Jack Gentry, where did your eyes go?
Yeah, I mean, for the offense, there are a couple position battles we're all watching, right? It's who's going to come out on right guard, who's going to start at right tackle. We kind of have an idea of who the leaders in the clubhouse right now are. Sadiq Charles and Nicholas Petit-Frere obviously being listed as the starters in the first unofficial depth chart before Saturday's preseason opener. On the defensive side of the ball, Titans drafted Cedric Gray. The green dot conversation has been extensive this offseason. Now, how important is it? The players like to downplay it, but for Cedric Gray to be buried on the depth chart a little bit just to start out, obviously with more reps, more experience, preseason performances.
Yeah, I mean, this is not – he's
it's
not
going to be
third
fluid.
He's not the third or fourth guy here. Cedric Gray's all the way back as the 6th inside linebacker right now.
Mm-hmm. So these things are going to be fluid. You see Mason Kinsey, the chat's all over Mason Kinsey as one of the biggest surprises. Chase, John, IR Hoshi, a bunch of guys, Chandler, all these guys are saying that Kinsey is the most surprising. I don't necessarily know that that's the most surprising. In my opinion, Sam, I think the most surprising thing is Josh Wiley in Chigakonkwo.
Really?
being split as the starters. Like I mean, Chigakonkwo, to me, I'd figured would be the Titans tight end one, but Callahan and this crew, we've heard about how much Levis likes Wiley on and off the field. They're hanging out a whole lot. They're building a rapport, and Chig, he hasn't really taken that step that Titans fans have been waiting for, right? It's always, man, where's Chig in the first half of the season? And then in the back half of the season, you're like, okay, Chig's starting to come around a little bit, but drops, consistency problems. Now, quarterback position hasn't exactly been stable since Chig's been here, but to see Wiley and Chig listed as co-starters on this list has to be the most surprising thing to me. Why it's not kick returner is because, they drafted Jaquan Jackson. They've got Kyle Phillips. Or excuse me, I should say punt returner, which is where Kinsey is starting. That is kind of an opportunity-based situation where you're going to get out in the preseason. These guys are going to have live reps against real competition, and one of them is going to earn it through preseason games, right? Not fumbling the ball, making the most of their opportunities, being smart in their decisions. So I'm not worried about who's starting at punt returner before the first preseason game. There's a lot of movement to come in a couple of these positions, but punt returner being probably the most one, or the one that's most like hot hand driven, right? If you're doing well in preseason, you're going to win that job in week one. What happens before then kind of doesn't matter. That's why I'm not too hung up on Mason Kinsey being the starter back there. But to me, man, Wiley and Chig as co-starters, that's jumping off the page to me.
Interesting. All right. So we asked the question, what stands out most from the Titans' first unofficial depth chart? Quick summary of the chat. Pistol Ramsey says Jaquan Jackson, and probably the fact that Jaquan Jackson is very far down on the depth chart at both receiver and at punt returner. He is not beating out Kyle Phillips for that slot right now, not winning the punt return job. Lewis said nothing, which is boring, Lewis. Shane Ray is a surprise, but he must be impressing the coaches at where Shane Ray is on this depth chart. Kinsey, says Chase Hill. Charles over Radin, says Andre Bunting. I'm not very surprised by this, Jack. I felt like Sadiq Charles was the preseason favorite to be the starting right guard, really since they signed him. And I would still say that he's probably the favorite to win that job. Same thing I would say for NPF as the starting right tackle. John Ojukwu is not it. I can tell you that much. He's not it. And Nicholas Petit-Frere is a much, much better chance of starting at right tackle. I sat there at training camp, looked at a couple of my media colleagues and said, NPF has done himself a lot of favors by not being here. That's what my thought was watching John Ojukwu play right tackle, that it made NPF's chances improve.
He just looks more valuable because of what the guys behind him are offering right now. NPF, he's got to step up this season. The Titans are going to be relying on NPF to not only win that right tackle job, which I think is pretty much going to happen by default if he can stay healthy through training camp, but also like be a formidable, pass blocker out there. Will Levis cannot keep getting hit like he was last season, and you've already shored up the left side. Like there's enough questions on the right side as it is. NPF, it's time to rise to the occasion.
Let's see. Titans Kyle said it was with you saying Chig and Wiley as co-starters. Same with Amar. He said the tight ends. Mario said Spears as kick returner. Chandler was on Mason Kinsey as the punt returner.
Yeah.
Corey's same way, definitely Kinsey. Scott said definitely Kinsey. Karen said Mason Kinsey. Same with Darius. Joshua says it was NPF. We've got Phillips very much alive from Bork, which I do think is the case. I think that second slot position behind Tyler Boyd, very much still a competition with Phillips, Kinsey, and Jaquan Jackson all alive and in the running. Darius says no Burks on kickoff return. I didn't notice that until I just looked back at it right now, but that is a good note from Darius that I think is interesting. I think for me, Jack, the first thing that I noticed that made me go, whoa, was Mason Kinsey at punt returner. That was the one that, I guess, surprised me. Now, Mason Kinsey's had a good camp. I almost would have expected Mason Kinsey to be in Kyle Phillips' spot as the second slot receiver before I expected him to be the punt returner. So that did surprise me a little bit. And I'm not sure it was, inaccurate, though. And so my ultimate answer of what stood out to me from these initial depth charts, offense, defense, and special teams is that these are pretty true to the reps we have seen in practice. These are pretty true to what has gone on. And that can't always be said about the Titans this time of year. I kind of looked back at some of these unofficial depth charts that have started training camp in the past. The Titans, as we know, with Mike Vrabel as the head coach, kind of always put players in positions that didn't really accurately summarize where they were in the eyes of the team. But I can genuinely tell you that from wide receivers and like where guys are kind of running in drills at wide receiver to, the offensive line, like linebacker, right? You said you were surprised that Cedric Gray was so far down on the depth chart a little bit,
Yeah.
but that has kind of been what the Titans have done. Murray and Gibbons have taken the first team reps. Chance Campbell and Garrett Wallow have gotten more opportunity as the second team than Cedric Gray or Otis Reese or any of these other guys so far. So it's been
Sam,
sorry, go ahead.
real quick, why do you think that is? Because I think a lot of Titans fans looking at this, including myself, it's not just surprised, I'm a little disappointed that Cedric Gray isn't higher up on this thing. Because, when you drafted him coming out of North Carolina, there's a lot to like, right? He's rangy.
Yeah.
That's something that Jack Gibbons hasn't really been described as being. So how do you feel about Cedric Gray being positioned where he is on this depth chart?
Yeah, I mean, it is a little underwhelming. I think his play has been somewhat underwhelming. Really, Sunday was the first day that I've noticed Cedric Gray, which is not good for an inside linebacker, especially with all the plays that have kind of been made on the quarterback in the backfield. I remember kind of sitting there and, Teron Davenport and I looked up at each other after practice, and we were kind of like, oh, you noticed Cedric Gray today too? And it was kind of the first, like, I didn't put it this way, Jack. Cedric Gray made a play in practice, and I did not know what number he wore. I looked up and said, who's 51? And somebody goes, oh, that's Cedric Gray. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. But it just, his number hadn't popped and flashed for me yet, where I knew what number he was. And, while people are still kind of learning this team, I think that kind of says he hasn't been on the field. He's still learning a lot. He's got a long way to go before he's ready to be a starting inside linebacker. I still think he can get there by the end of this year or in the future. I still really like that draft pick by the Titans, but I don't think he's as plug and play ready as maybe we imagined when he was first drafted by Tennessee. And that rotation is kind of accurate to how it has gone there. And as somebody else in the chat here says, as John points out, like there are starters or rookies in starting positions. And you see that with Tavondre Sweat, and you see that with JC Latham. That's another thing the Titans have been kind of allergic to, is to naming a rookie a starter. But I would say my takeaway was, yeah, this makes sense. This is accurate to what I've seen.
Yeah, no point in hiding the rookies behind these guys that they're obviously not going to play behind, right? I mean, JC Latham, you draft him in the first round. He's starting at left tackle for you, whether he impresses in camp or not. You need that guy to start. You need that guy to develop under Bill Callahan. Next, Tavondre Sweat, Bohanna behind him. He's not taking any reps away. Like let's be real about this. Tavondre Sweat's getting the lion's share of reps at the nose tackle spot. But, a position we haven't hit on a whole lot, Sam, you mentioned Sadiq Charles starting at right guard. Kind of feels like Bill Callahan's preferred option over there. Radin's behind him, but Daniel Brunskill, who started the most games at that position last year. I mean, he's closer to getting reps at center than he is at right guard. He's third on the list when it comes to right guards, but backing up Cushenberry as the number 2 option at center. Do you see how do you view Dylan Brunskill's role heading into preseason?
I mean, that was kind of where I had Brunskill. I view Daniel Brunskill as the backup center for this team with I've said that on the show a couple times before, that he is a backup center with positional versatility to potentially play left or right guard. So he can be your inside versatile backup behind Cushenberry, behind Charles, behind whoever you need. And that, to me, is where Daniel Brunskill fits on this roster right now. And so that wasn't a huge shock to me either. Adding offensive tackle is potentially interesting. You see Jerron Christian over Leroy Watson as that second left tackle, which seems to be a pretty open competition right now. Christian Watson. I'll say Brian Dooley has gotten a lot of reps on the right side of the line. But I do think Christian and Watson have that veteran experience. But it seems like Christian right now is next up at left tackle.
One more note, Hassan Haskins listed as the Titans RB3, a guy that a lot of Titans fans ruled out last season with some off-the-field stuff, injury stuff as well. But it looks like Callahan's group views him as the number 3 option at running back. How's he look during camp?
Well, right now the Titans are looking for that thumper as the RB3. That was something that I talked to Titans running backs coach Randy Jordan about last week, Jack. I asked him straight up, I said, hey, man, like you talk about Pollard and Spears and how they're so similar. They have a lot of these same skill sets and they're interchangeable is the word that Callahan likes to use for the two backs. What do you really look for in that third guy? Do you want another interchangeable skill set just in case, hey, let's say Pollard goes down for a week, right? Now do you have Spears and another interchangeable back that can work his way in there? Or do you need a different skill set? Without hesitation, he said, thumper. That's what Randy Jordan wants. Talked about, you want a guy that's 220, 230, a big dude who can go and pound the rock. Julius Chestnut and Hassan Haskins both listed at 228 pounds on the Titans team website. Not a good sign for Jabari Small to make this team. The fact that the Titans are looking for a thumper because Small is a good 30 pounds lighter than both Haskins and Chestnut. But I do think that Haskins-Chestnut battle is intriguing to watch and might just be won in training camp or in preseason games. I think that one's very much still up in the air. Jack, I want to, sorry, do you have something?
No, I was just going to add, I think a lot of Titans fans, I don't know how many people are up to date on this, but those charges that Hassan Haskins got last year, it was a disturbing police report. Those were all dismissed. So that's just a little tidbit from Hassan Haskins off the field drama. Those charges are dismissed. So I guess he gets a fresh start and maybe he's taking advantage of that during camp this year.
Yeah, it definitely seems like that will not impact his ability to make this team. So I think it'll be an on-field sort of battle. Want to get to kind of the crux of what we were just talking about, which is the previous iterations of the Titans unofficial depth chart and how this one is potentially different from the past. So going to revisit old Titans depth charts. Before we do it, going to tell everybody about our friends over at the Bone and Joint Institute. Schedule an appointment with the Bone and Joint Institute at boneandjointtn.org. They are the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Whenever you get hurt in life, don't fumble on your recovery. Call the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, for the best doctors and a great facility, research facility. They've got everything all under one roof: clinic, rehab, imaging, surgery, testing. It's in Franklin, easy to get to, right off the highway. boneandjointtn.org is where to go to schedule your appointment.
BetMGM.com, the king of sportsbooks, guys. The time is now to get in those future bets. Download BetMGM, use our bonus code A to Z Sports, and get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. Whether you want to do a division title bet, a wins total, maybe a season-long player prop, BetMGM's got it all up there, all available. If you want to bet on pole vault, I'm sure a lot of people cashed on Mondo yesterday. That was pretty fun to watch the Olympics. That's also up on BetMGM. So new users, download the app, get that on your phone before football season, and sign up with our bonus code A to Z Sports to get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses.
All right, Jack, I went back and I found the Tennessee Titans unofficial depth chart from which year is this right here? This would appear to be the 2023 unofficial depth chart. And I'm just going to kind of look at it right now because there was only one rookie starter listed. And it was Peter Skoronski, which was expected, I would say, when you draft somebody with a first-round pick for them to start on your offensive line and you view them as a blue-chip player. Some other notes that I have from this: the backup nose tackle was viewed as Naquan Jones, who did not make the team. defensive. Well, he did make the team at one point. He might have been on the practice squad to start. Jaden Peavy did not make the team. He was viewed as your second defensive end behind Danico Autry. Also did not make the team. Your inside linebackers behind Gibbons and Alshire, Chance Campbell was viewed as that third inside linebacker. He also struggled to stick on the roster.
That's white Patrick Willis right there.
Yeah. Your starting kicker last year, before they signed Nick Folk, this was a Caleb Shudak role. Kyle Phillips was viewed as the starting punt returner, which he very quickly lost those duties. Your backup running back was Hassan Haskins, and Tajay Spears was listed as the third string. Jonathan Ward was listed as the fourth string. Julius Chestnut, the fifth string. And so Julius Chestnut ended up making that roster and finding his way onto the team there. Josh Wiley was listed as the fourth tight end behind Alize Mack. So kind of an example of how the rookies are potentially knocked a little bit more than they probably should be. Will Levis, obviously the QB3 on the initial depth chart this time last year, with Malik Willis getting the second duty. Caleb Murphy was in the far right column, as were Matthew Jackson. Eric Garrer was viewed as the 10th cornerback on the roster, and he made the 53-man roster as well. The point is, a lot of this can change. And you're looking at guys over in that spot that like a Robert Javier is in over there, who, by the way, will not make this team. That was the spot Eric Garrer was in last year. And, so I know you're concerned about where Cedric Gray is currently sitting, where a Jalen Harrell might be sitting, James Williams, Gabe Judy Lally listed as, whatever it is, the 9th cornerback or 8th cornerback on this team over there. So much is subject to change, and as this roster thins out and guys earn themselves more opportunity, this will still be shaken up. And that brings us to our next question here, Jack, this morning, which is, which Titans player will not be in the same spot of the depth chart after the preseason? We're going to do a little prediction here. We're calling our shot. We are finding somebody on offense, on defense, or on special teams, I don't care which one it is, that you think is going to earn more opportunity or potentially lose opportunity. And you're saying this person will not still be there in that spot when training camp ends. So go ahead in the chat, fire off all of your responses there. And I'm going to tell you guys about Farm Bureau Health Plans. Farm Bureau Health Plans, better coverage, better rates, better service. Learn more about a plan for you at fbhp.com/ATOZ. Farm Bureau Health Plans has been serving Tennesseans for over 75 years, and a lot has changed in Tennessee over the years, but some things have stayed the same, like Farm Bureau Health Plans, always valuing personal relationships, especially when it comes to good health and good service. You can rely and plan on Farm Bureau Health Plans for health, dental, and vision. So for better rates, better coverage, and better service, go to fbhp.com/ATOZ or walk into one of their 200 plus locations across the state. That's fbhp.com/ATOZ.
Just talking to you guys about BetMGM, but in case you weren't listening or paying attention, now's the time to get this thing on your phone. Download BetMGM app. If you're going to get some skin in the game, do it with the Kings. Download BetMGM, use our bonus code A2Z Sports, and you'll get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. A lot of Olympics action going on right now. You want to bet on basketball, you want to bet on something else like that. It's going on in the Olympics. Do it with BetMGM. It's all up there. Football bets, college football, NFL futures, all that stuff's also up on BetMGM. Download the app and use our bonus code ATOZ Sports.
All right, Jack, we asked the question, which Titans player will not be in the same spot after the preseason? Doing a little prediction part of this morning's show. What's the chat got to say?
Yeah, let's go all the way back to the top. Don't want to miss anybody here. We're going to start off with Big Lou over here with Kiaris Jackson at the return man spot. Remember, Kiaris Jackson won that job last year, but did go down with a serious injury, which kind of cost him some opportunity last season. DeMario says Cedric Gray is going to be fine. Need to get over that rookie learning curve and adjust to the speed of the game. Would you say, let me ask you this, would you say that Jack Gibbons being one and Cedric Gray being buried has more to do with Jack Gibbons being good, or Cedric Gray just kind of being a non-factor up to this point?
Maybe a little bit of both. I think, I mean, Gibbons is going to be the starter. I think Gibbons has had himself a really strong offseason. I think he's had himself a really good start to camp thus far. I think the Titans are a big fan of what Gibbons does in their defense and kind of how different it is from who Kenneth Murray is in their defense. So Gibbons is going to be the starter. He might be the starter all year. Uh, Maybe there's a chance that if Gibbons doesn't play well, that Cedric Gray or somebody else can like overtake him at some point. But I think that the gap right now is pretty significant. I see Patricia asked if Gibbons is tackling better. Yes, I mean it is a little bit hard to say. Things are not exactly full contact right now, even with the pads on. You're not always finishing tackles, but he has had his nose in the backfield a lot, and him and Kenneth Murray have seemed to be all over the place. I think Gibbons is really strong against the run and a really strong tackler. Where we struggle with Jack Gibbons at times is like, can he cover? Is he fast enough to cover some of these guys over the middle? And how creative can the Titans get with a box safety or a nickel corner to potentially make his life a little bit easier? That's Denard Wilson's goal for his inside backers, is make them cover less, make them get downhill more. And so I think Gibbons in Denard's defense has found a little bit more comfort. And right now, he's projected to be the starter. I don't think that's going to change this year. Maybe it does way late in the season, but I think, if we're waiting on like, oh, in a couple weeks, Cedric Gray will overtake the starting inside linebacker job, I don't foresee that happening.
Sam, can you pull up the defensive depth chart? We got a couple comments here relating to the defensive side of the ball. Sean Gill says he's curious as to who's going to start over Arden Key for those first 6 games. Right now,
Yeah.
it looks like Rashad Weaver's the leader in the clubhouse. Could Shane Ray potentially be next man up if all goes well?
I think right now the consensus at Titans camp and within the building is that Rashad Weaver is the next man up. Shane Ray will make this team. And this goes back to what I noticed is I think this is really accurate. The fact that Shane Ray is listed as that 4th outside linebacker, he's behind Harold Landry there. I think is accurate to what we've seen, that it has been Key and Landry, and then it's Weaver and Ray as the next 2 guys up. Weaver probably steps up and starts in Key's place. And then who is the guy that, makes this team because Key is on the suspended list? Is it Jalen Harrell? Is it, Caleb Murphy? A lot of opportunity to potentially slide on the 53-man roster for another outside linebacker.
Trey Avery is sticking out to Eric Castillo. You see him right there behind Cheeto. Titans Kyle also says Gare and Avery, they're going to be bumped down as preseason football goes along here. Kevin says Cedric Gray is going to overtake Chance Campbell. So Charles starting.
Real quick. Let's pause real quick and let's talk about some of these. So let's talk about the cornerbacks.
Okay.
And so we look at Gare or Avery getting bumped out. Jack, if you want to take that off the screen real quick, just so we can look. So Snead is your cornerback 1. Cheeto is your cornerback 2. Roger is in the nickel. Okay. Brownlee is already listed as the guy behind L'Jarius Snead as the backup to him. Gare, I think, makes the most sense as the nickel behind McCreary just in terms of skill set. And then Avery's after Cheeto. Look at that third line, though. Like Caleb Farley, Anthony Kendall, Robert Javier, Tay Gowan, Gabe Judy Lally. Like, who are we expecting to knock out Trey Avery or Eric Gare? Is it Gabe Judy Lally? Is that what this is about? That Gabe Judy Lally is going to take the spot of one of these guys? Because I don't know who from that third column is knocking one of those guys out. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so you can't really put one guy in 2 places here, right? So they've got Jarvis Brownlee behind L'Jarius Snead, but correct me if I'm wrong, the plan for Brownlee is probably to play more inside than outside, barring injury.
So I had this conversation with Austin yesterday. I view Brownlee as outside. I don't view Brownlee as an inside corner. I think he's better on the perimeter. So I think, he can do both, but I do believe the plan for Jarvis Brownlee right now is for him to be a perimeter corner behind Cheeto and Snead and kind of be their third guy in that role.
Okay. Let's see, like Elijah Molden being the backup. You see Jamal Adams right there listed as the starting safety right now. That's obviously going to change with the addition of Quandre Diggs, we think. But
It is
Elijah
interesting
Molden
to
being
think
behind,
that they're listing Adams, because we kind of had this perception, right, of Jamal Adams that was like Molden is your free safety, Molden is your strong safety, Hooker is your free safety, I guess, in the new look defense, and then Adams kind of fits in specific different packages. But on the unofficial depth chart, it like Adams over Molden is interesting. That one is fascinating, and so I don't think
right?
either one of them are necessarily starting with Quandre Diggs back there, but that doesn't look great for Elijah Molden. The fact that he was already the third safety, and now you added another like bona fide vet to that room.
And with Adams being listed as the starting safety, I mean that kind of leads you to believe that the vision prior to Quandre Diggs was probably Amani Hooker at the free safety spot. But when you bring in a guy like Quandre Diggs, who has
Right.
experience in 3 Pro Bowls playing free safety, that figures to kick Amani Hooker back to his natural position at strong safety. We'll monitor that throughout camp, though, because the safeties are absolutely going to be something to watch. Roy Wright believes Radens could move. Sadiq Charles and Trey Avery. We've got Mason Kinsey is the low-hanging fruit, so I'll say Charles will be behind Radens. Gabe Judy Lolly will earn more opportunities for Mario. He's impressed in camp against DeAndre Hopkins and a few of the other Titans' top receivers. Gabe Judy Lolly, the Vandy Vol, Kiaris Jackson, Sadiq Charles, Cedric Gray. Sam, it's hard for me to figure out who's going to move the most here because I think there are a few options, right? The right guard position, while it does feel like Sadiq Charles has the lead right now, I think Dylan Radens is absolutely still in the thick of things at that spot. But in terms
I
of
think, I think Charles is the favorite, but I don't believe that battle is closed at all. Charles missed both practices over the weekend with personal issue. But it was a personal reason for missing the practice, I should say, that Brian Callahan said. And Dylan Radens did a nice job, man. Like they were running right behind Radens and NPF a lot. So I think that reopens that position battle. And I think a lot of people, myself included, curious to see what that rotation looks like when Charles is back on the practice field now that Radens has flashed a couple times.
You know, I think the player that has a chance to make up the most ground throughout the preseason is Gabe Judy Lolly. There's a lot of opportunity at the cornerback position behind some of these starters. If Gabe Judy Lolly can continue this momentum we've seen in camp onto the field with live reps in the preseason against, some of the better quarterbacks that he's going to see, if he gets reps with the ones or the twos even at some point, I think that Gabe Judy Lolly could absolutely climb into this position that we see Trey Avery in right now. So while Gabe Judy Lolly is further back on the depth chart, I think there's absolutely opportunity for him to climb up and be a primary backup to one of your starting corners.
It's interesting. I mean, I would say my momentum on Gabe Judy Lolly has kind of gone the other way since training camp started from where we were after OTAs and mini camp. I was not at many of the OTAs and mini camp. I missed most of them, and I was not necessarily able to see Gabe Judy Lolly, but I had been told by a lot of people to watch out for this guy and that he's getting all these opportunities. He was kind of getting more opportunities than Jarvis Brownlee for a little bit. But in training camp, that has not been the case. Brownlee seems to have taken him over. I don't necessarily view Gabe Judy Lolly as an option at nickel. And so I think Eric Garror is going to be somebody who it's difficult for him to surpass. I do think if there is one spot he can jump, it would be Trey Avery for that 6th cornerback spot. But I don't know. Trey Avery, as bad as he was last year, does have a lot of experience. And so I think that right now that's still up in the air, but I think I feel more strongly that Avery will make this team now than I did before training camp started.
But that wall at cornerback is not high to climb for any of these guys that are 3rd, 4th options, right? Like surpassing Trey Avery and Eric Garror isn't exactly, summiting Mount Everest.
No, correct, right? And like all it takes is one really good preseason game for Gabe Judy Lolly's opportunities to completely flip. But I'm interested that you still say that, and that is still the guy that jumps out to you here, because for me, I feel like the Gabe Jeudy-Lally hype train has like slowed into the station a little bit, and I'm kind of waiting to see if it, goes back out on another ride. So interested there.
So, which player do you think has the opportunity to climb the most, or maybe it's a player that's listed as a starter? Who do you think in this Titans first unofficial depth chart has some potential to really move around as things get shuffled throughout the preseason?
All right, I made this declaration the other day, and maybe it's a hot take, but I'm gonna ride with it, and I'm gonna look at the bottom here. Julius Chestnut's gonna be the RB3.
Oh,
Julius
okay.
Chestnut's going to overtake Hassan Haskins and be the RB3. I think he looks better than Haskins. I think he's starting to get a little bit more opportunity than Haskins. And he had a close call right there, by the way. I almost hit end stream while trying to click on the comments. That would have been
The cliffhanger.
been an all-time screw up by me. I believe Julius Chestnut's going to be the RB3. I think he's still that thumper that Randy Jordan is looking for the Titans behind these two starters. Over the weekend, Chestnut got more opportunities with the ones and twos than I have seen Haskins get so far. Haskins has been pretty much like with the second team offense, Haskins runs the ball a lot. Chestnut worked in with Will Levis in the ones a lot. Got work in with the twos as well. And I just had a really, really strong day. He stood out to me as one of the stars of camp over the weekend, just hitting holes hard. 5-6 yard runs in full tackle, made a couple catches out of the backfield. I think Julius Chestnut does a lot of what the Titans are hoping to have for their third running back. And so that is what I am going to go ahead and predict, is that he's going to overtake Hassan Haskins and end up finding his way onto this team. And I do agree with Jay. I think, he's a thumper, but he's also a more explosive runner and therefore potentially more valuable on special teams as well.
Malachi asks a fair question here. Does the third running back matter when you have Pollard or Spears? And I think the answer is yes, due to injury stuff.
Well,
Right? Spears, no ACL. Pollard, only 2 years removed from a season-ending leg injury. While they may not get run early in the season, I do think a third running back, and we've seen it even with Derrick Henry, with Deontay Foreman and Dontrell Hilliard, a third running back is going to see the field at some point. Now, hopefully you're not relying on him as a starter, but I do think it's fair to believe that a third running back is going to make a difference at some point in the season, maybe a game here or a game there. But with that being said, Sam, what are you looking for? How do you
hang on.
view the winner of this
Let me go ahead
shaking out?
and add to that real quick before we get to your follow-up, because I am interested in asking this question to Brian Callahan specifically, which I'm going to try and do tomorrow. Callahan has a side session, no video. It's a little bit more casual, and it's a good opportunity to get some background. So I'm going to add this question to my docket of things to ask the Titans head coach. The way Randy Jordan made it sound to me was like the third running back would get on the field consistently regardless. Like when we talked and he talked about the third running back, he said a thumper. Why? Because when it's third and short and fourth and short, I need a guy to throw in there and give the ball to, and a guy who's going to pick up a first down and get the tough yards. He didn't make it sound like this is a backup to your main guys. He kind of offered this third position as an alternative to your front two guys. So Spears and Pollard have one skill set, but it's 3rd and 1. Maybe you're not running between the tackles with Spears or Pollard. Maybe it is a Haskins or Chestnut that you trust and can get you to and will not go down at first contact. And so I'm curious if they view the RB3 spot as merely what you said, a backup in case of injury to the other guys, or if they view it as a new role entirely that they will play in a game like without injury. And do you give that guy a couple of carries? And
So
if they do, then yes, it does matter.
Yeah, I'm with you there. So Haskins and Chestnut both have special teams experience, but with what you said, they're looking for a thumper. What is going to help one of these guys separate themselves from the other? Is it going to be special teams work? Is it going to be short yardage situations?
I think it's going to be how they run the ball in preseason games. I think it's going to be the ability to demonstrate that physicality and that tough running style that Randy Jordan and the Titans are looking for. If you can prove to the Titans in a preseason game, I'm difficult to tackle, I've got some explosiveness out of the backfield, and that if you give me the ball on 3rd and 2, I can pick up the tough yards. I don't think it's going to be whoever runs away from the defense and has a 100-yard game necessarily. I think it's going to be who picks up 3 yards when you're, running into the B gap one-on-one against the linebacker and can come out on the other side with a first down. So that is kind of, to me, what I will be looking for is who runs tougher in the preseason, Hassan Haskins or Julius Chestnut. And I'm a Chestnut believer. I've liked what Chestnut has shown every preseason that he's been here. I feel like he has relished that opportunity and consistently kind of found a way to make this team. He's on a Sacred Heart. He's not supposed to be here, but he gets the job done, man. And I do think he has value for the Titans. So that is my prediction that I'm going to make. And maybe I'm way wrong, but I think, I think Julius Chestnut makes the team. And this is another interesting thing. I agree with Rayskull here. This coaching staff doesn't talk about special teams nearly as much as the Mike Vrabel coaching staff did. I think I asked that question to Randy Jordan, to a Mike Vrabel staffer. Hey, man, what are you looking for in the RB3? Well, you're going to have to find a way to contribute on special teams. That's like the first words out of their mouth at all times. What are you looking for out of your backup slot? Well, you're going to have to find a way to contribute on special teams, and that starts for any receiver. I don't think the Titans are viewing it that cut and dry. I think they want to have depth on offense and players who can contribute on offense,
which is nice. Also, it's not like they're going to forget about special teams, right? With the new kickoff rules and some of the weapons that the Titans have invested in, whether that be draft capital or stuff, other stuff like that. Like they're clearly emphasizing special teams as well. It's just they're not as keen on it probably as Mike Vrabel was. Look, winning in special teams helps. We've seen the Titans lose in special teams over the last couple of years.
That, Jack, to me is ultimately why I'm sick of it. Like, why I'm sick of this special teams is how you make a roster type of narrative, because the Titans for the last handful of years have prioritized special teams output for their back end roster selections, right? The guys that can contribute on special teams make the team. Some of them are special teams only type of dudes. Like, they are specialists on kick return or punt coverage, or like they're a gunner, and that's why they make this roster. And then we kind of notice that your special teams specialists suck at special teams. And
not so special at all.
Yeah, you have the worst unit anyways, and you can't cover kicks. You can't tackle on kickoff. You can't punt return. And so, I've hit a point where I'm just like, miss me with all of that. Like, I don't want to hear about how this guy is going to help you on special teams and he makes the roster. There's 8 million dudes on this team that are going to be able to get down and make a tackle on kickoff. Give me the guy who can play defense and teach him how to play special teams before you try and take a gunner and teach him how to play anything else.
MB says the worst part about our special teams was there's nothing to write home about, right? It feels like, special teams, special players, special plays. Yeah, exactly. Right. That's right, brother. But, I feel like Vrabel and Ackerman and these guys, they put more value in the X's and O's of special teams rather than the Jimmies or Joes. And I think that's what's going to be different with Brian Callahan on special teams.
Well, he's Ackerman's X's and O's were don't block for your punter and see what happens.
And we're going to do it 3 times in a row and see if it changes, right? But I like Tajay Spears being the starter at kick returner and co-starter at running back. Like, they're not just going to throw in a depth guy that's going to be the 53rd man to make the roster back there to fill that role. They're going to put one of their more explosive players, one of their more talented guys back in a special teams role, and that's going to help them tremendously, in my opinion. Like, you're not going to have to worry about a revolving door, a cast of characters at the kick returner spot. Just let one of your most talented offensive players fill that role as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, that kickoff specifically is kind of viewed as an offensive play now, which is why I think the Titans will probably have 2 kick returners back there together. I think it could be Treylon Burks and Tajay Spears, 2 players that you're relying on offense to potentially, have an impact there. But like, let's just go down this roster and see some of these guys that could have special teams impact, whether it be as a gunner or somebody who's getting down, making tackles, covering kicks. Like Nick Westbrook-Akine, he's going to be involved in special teams. We know that about him. He's solid in that regard. Nick Vannett could be on special teams. You could have whoever that other running back is, Hassan Haskins, Julius Chestnut on special teams. We could see Traylon Burks on special teams. Defensively, like, go down the list again. Garrett Wallow, Chance Campbell, Shane Ray, Eric Garrer, Trey Avery, Mike Brown. These are dudes who are going to contribute. Elijah Molden now especially contribute to your special teams unit, where we don't need to burn our 6th receiver spot, our 6th corner spot, our 4th linebacker spot on a specialist, because we have other dudes, by the way, who can do that same job just fine. And it's not going to kill you at the end of the day, because it was as bad as it got when you were prioritizing that. And Craig Ackerman.
You don't have to win games on special teams. Just don't lose them, for God's sakes, please.
Yeah. For a team that prioritized it, the fact that we're still sitting here having a special teams conversation on a
drove me crazy.
Tuesday morning in August is tough. So, yeah. All right, Jack, let's go ahead and get to throwing shade, our end of show topic here. And it's brought to you, as always, by our friends over at Wilson County Hyundai. Make Wilson County Hyundai a part of your new car buying process in Lebanon, or at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. They're the place to go for your new ride. You can forget those Nashville prices. Head to Lebanon and see our friends at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. Let's throw some shade. All right, it's throwing shade on a Tuesday morning here, Jack. You teased me before the show and said that you have a shade that I'll be very interested in, that I'll be very entertained by. So while the chat goes ahead and fires off some of their shade, do you want to kick things off and enlighten me?
Yes, absolutely. My shade today is going out to DraftKings Sportsbooks, not just because they're a rival of BetMGM, a show sponsor, but because of a surcharge that they plan to implement in a few high-tax states. So there are 4 states out there. Sam, you're from one of them: Illinois, New York, Vermont, and Pennsylvania. All those states carry pretty high taxes, and in those states, DraftKings plans to implement a surcharge where essentially plus 100 bets, you'd have to pay minus 104 to get those things in. So they're taxing the bettor for a state law that really these bettors aren't in control of anyways. And it's already hard to make a profit in sports betting. Now you're getting extra greedy, and you're charging people more vig. Like minus 110 bets would be minus 113.6. It's an extra tax on the bettor, and it's not working out for the DraftKings stock right now. Now, don't get me wrong, the stock market's in trouble all over the place at this moment.
Yeah, I don't know if you can find a sportsbook stock that's in the green at the moment.
Right, but DraftKings, I mean, there's been major blowback, and there's been a lot of other companies like FanDuel, Circa, all these other pretty big sports books nationally have come out and said that they do not plan to follow in the footsteps of DraftKings. So my shade goes out to DraftKings for getting greedy and taxing the consumer, which is a really bold strategy considering how many other competitors they have in the market right now that aren't going to be doing this in those 4 states. So that'll be interesting to watch moving forward if anyone follows in their footsteps, or if bettors from Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont, and Illinois decide to switch off of DraftKings and go somewhere else.
Yeah, that I don't use DraftKings. I use BetMGM. I will never use DraftKings, and that kind of just cemented it for me. That it's pointless, man. That's pointless. And like I like what you said. I mean, like all the books are already juiced. You've already juiced them all so that you make countless profit off anything. You're just adding to it like for no reason, because you can. And the unfortunate thing is they can, because people are still going to bet. I don't think it'll really affect, like, if every sports book in every state did that exact same thing, Jack, I don't think we see a dip in sports betting whatsoever. So, I mean, I guess if you're the sports book, why not do it if people are still going to do it? But hopefully some of these other sports books hold firm and do not implement this. And then DraftKings is just a loser that has
And
worse
then they have to
odds.
go. They have to go back to their old ways, which is the
Yeah.
normal way. Isn't it just bad optics, right? I mean, even if you're winning, like that turns you off of DraftKings forever if you live in one of those states, right? It's just the
I mean,
greedy
it's also
wanting
kind of,
more.
it's a hard brand persona. I'm trying to think of the word that I'm looking for. It's just like it will have, it will hold weight with me forever. Like when I think of DraftKings now, I will be like, oh, I'm not using DraftKings. They've got that weird thing in place. And even if they change back, even if they walk it
It's the
back, go,
principle, right?
hey guys, we're sorry. I still feel like I'll have this stigma of DraftKings in my brain that like, oh, you're the one that tried to get greedy and take advantage of people even more just because you can. So,
Mhm.
yeah, not great PR for DraftKings, I would say for sure.
I don't understand the strategy. Obviously, the strategy is to make money, but I just don't think that this helps you get more people to come to your sports book, right? Like, it just, even though it sounds like you're going to be making more with the amount of customers that you're going to lose, I wonder if it's actually going
No,
to pay
the
dividends.
way to get people to come to your sports book is to offer them deals like free bets. Like when BetMGM is able to offer you $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses, there is a reason to go to BetMGM and sign up with code A to Z Sports because you know that there is an offer that is unique to BetMGM that you can get there. And when some of these sports books pop up and it's like you get a so it's such and such free bet on the NCAA tournament or on the Super Bowl or whatever it is, that drives people to sign up. This does not drive people to sign up. And I would don't believe this is probably worth it at the end of the day for DraftKings if they're losing a bunch of users because they decided to sprinkle on a little extra, you know, shave a little bit off the numbers for them. Like that doesn't seem worth it if it affects your PR and makes you lose members.
And Troy says, I pulled up the wrong one. Troy says they're trying to recover all the free money they give you out. I'm telling you, they give out the free money. They haven't stopped giving out the free bonus bet stuff
They
because
recover
when they pull
real
you
quick.
in, when they pull you in,
Yeah.
they make money off of you one way or another. You're going to end up depositing more and losing more. So it's just kind of the strategy of sports books right now. But yeah, I think it's unnecessary for DraftKings to implement this. So that's where my shade goes.
All right.
What do you got today?
We're throwing shade. We're throwing shade. Going to the chat real quick. Let's see. Let's see. We can go shade. We got a couple controversial ones. I'm trying to sift through some of these here and make sure I'm throwing up appropriate stuff. Devin says throwing shade on whoever poured concrete in his house, putting in hardwood, and holy crap, it looks like the face of the moon. Oh man. Yeah, shade on whoever. There's nothing worse than like doing a DIY project or trying to do a DIY project and realizing that the previous person to do a DIY just made your life exponentially harder. So shade on them for you. Devin, let's see. Throwing shade at lacrosse. Why do we not see this more? Some of the most impressive athletics I've ever witnessed. Just the sport of lacrosse for what? Not being more popular? What is Joshua throwing shade at here?
I can get behind this because, like, water polo, I feel like it's not necessarily the same, but maybe there's some, similarities here. Water polo, it comes on once every 4 years on the Olympics, and I'm absolutely enamored with it, right? Like, it's high scoring, it's fast paced, it's up and down, back and forth. Lacrosse is kind of the same way, and whenever the college lacrosse playoffs come on ESPN, because ESPN does, have a deal with them. I'm always watching Syracuse Johns Hopkins. I'm watching some of those other games, just because of how high scoring and fast paced it is. It's a fun sport to watch. I don't know enough about it to be like all in, but I know entertainment when I see entertainment. Water polo, lacrosse, some of these sports that are fun and fast paced don't get enough run on TV. But at the same time, if they're not making a whole lot of money, you kind of have to view it from that side of things as well and
Yeah.
understand. But like if you could air it on Peacock or do something like that, a niche
Hey, the
streaming
PLL,
site,
I
maybe
mean,
it
the
could work.
PLL is on ESPN and on a couple of different streaming sites, but like put the PLL in a big stadium of people. Like I want to see the PLL kind of have the resurgence that the MLS has had in the US where there are some real fun venues to watch Major League Soccer in the US right now. And popularity is really at an all-time high that I can remember for soccer in the United States. Um, I think lacrosse would be a hit if people gave it a shot, and if there were more stadiums that were sold out for lacrosse games. Like that, having an environment around lacrosse, I think would help the sport tremendously. So I can get behind that as well. Tiffany shades the Brisbane Broncos of the National Rugby League, who can't go to the final now. I don't understand the context of this at all, but I will say,
I
Jack,
love this.
my favorite moment of the Olympics so far was the women's
Oh
rugby
my
team.
gosh.
That was one of the cooler things I have
Wagon.
seen. Like there are every once in a while there's an Olympic moment that brings like tears to my eyes. And watching what was her name? Oh man, I'm blanking on her
I
name.
know what she looks like. Don't
I
know her.
apologize to her. She's got a fun little nickname. But watching that American rugby player, watching her truck that Australian girl, and then just like sprint into the end zone as time is ticking off the clock, realizing that like they're about to win the game and medal for the first time in a bunch of years, like 50 years, whatever it was. That was like chills. That was peak Olympics right there. So I'm in like a rugby kind of mood right now. Do you know
Rugby
what Tiffany's
rocks.
talking about here?
I don't know what Tiffany's talking about, but
Okay.
I absolutely love how niche this is, Tiffany. You win the most random shade of the
Yeah,
day.
those Brisbane Broncos, man. Yeah, let's see. Steven says, I hit that bet again yesterday. You guys are right. No runs first inning, 4 in a row, guys. When I tell you
Oh,
there's a no runs first inning play, it's gonna hit. Like I know ball. You don't realize that. Like
what do you
I've
got
been
going?
saying, huh?
What's happened? Who you got today?
Oh, I don't have one today. I didn't look today. I
All right.
normally just rip it on a BetMGM ad read and I get one ready for the people. So I haven't looked
Well,
today. I don't
not
have the play
forcing
yet
anything. I
today.
like
I
this.
don't force it, but like when one speaks to me, it speaks to me. I let the people know and it hits. That's kind of just like how it works. Let's see. Shade on employers who only give pizza as a bonus for the employees who work hard. That is a great shade. That is a great shade. They're being like, hey, work hard pizza party. I don't care about your pizza party, brother. You can keep the pizza party.
And it's cold pizza. It's cold. It's thick
Yeah.
crust. Nobody wants it.
Oh man, let's see what else we got here. Shade on inflation. Next man up, says Patricia. And shade on these jobs who are continuing to underpay legit good employees. Totally agree. Shade on the economy right now. Shade on the stock market. Had to pull out a couple of my assets and just kind of wait for the market to get a little bit less volatile. So had to go ahead and do that. My shade on the speed walker, as Devin says, that
Oh,
was
the
epic.
Spain.
That was epic. Absolutely epic. One of the best moments of the Olympics as well. That I could not believe my eyes when I saw that. I'm with Lucas. My shade.
I'd like to take that sport out of the Olympics, by the way.
Yeah, me
You
too.
go. You can continue though.
There's a couple. I'm shading my Chicago White Sox, Jack.
Oh, I'm so sorry about that.
They have now lost 21 games in a row. They have tied the American League record for most consecutive losses. The all-time record is the 1961 Phillies, who lost 23 games in a row. So the White Sox are closing in on history. And by the way, if they play Oakland tonight again, they play Oakland tomorrow again. If they were to lose both of those games, they would head back home for a Friday night game, a chance to break the all-time losing streak record, and they will be playing the Chicago Cubs at home.
Oh no, that is nightmare fuel for you.
It is nightmare fuel. It is potentially the most embarrassing thing possible. I can't decide if I'm rooting for it to happen because I hate this organization so much. I hate the ownership group. I hate the front office. I hate the way that they do business and sit there and shrug their shoulders and say everything is fine. They blame the fans for not going to the ballpark when they are quite literally the worst team ever assembled in the history of professional baseball. And they sit there and they blame the fan base. Why is nobody showing up? Despite the fact that they're not even bottom 10 in the league in attendance while being the worst team of all time. You are lucky to have the support of White Sox fans that you do. I hate everything about him. I hate Jerry Reinsdorf. I hate the GM. I hate the manager who is he's in his second year as manager and over 100 games under 500. The White Sox are 0-56. 0-56 this year when they were trailing after the sixth inning. 0-56. It is worse than I ever imagined my favorite sports franchise, bar none. Screw the Bears, screw the Bulls, the White Sox are number one in my heart and always will be. And they are the most embarrassing franchise in all of professional sports right now. So shade on them. I don't know if I don't want to be the worst team of all time. I don't want to go down in history as that, but they are 27-88 is their record. They're going to be the worst team of all time. Do I want the longest losing streak attached to that as well? No, I don't want to be remembered that way as a fan base and as an organization, but I also kind of want maximum embarrassment for everybody involved. So if this doesn't wake you up to change your ways, nothing ever will. As you can tell, like it genuinely hurts my soul. And I don't let this come, I have not let this come out at all this year because I cared so much about year to year how my Sox were doing. Every game mattered to me, especially when they were competitive. It just it consumed me. And when you have a different level of expectation of all right, now I know that they're bad, I know that they suck, you can kind of go apathetic. But when I view it big picture, it pains me in a real deep way because, you guys probably don't understand any of the context. Jack, you don't understand any of the context, but the White Sox had promised that they would have a window of sustained success. They tore it down and made us sit through a decade of a rebuild so that they could hit this promised land, this golden era of White Sox baseball. We hit it for 1 year in 2021, and then they absolutely tanked it because they refused to spend money. The owner started meddling and trying to return favors to his old buddies like Tony La Russa from 30 years ago and say, hey, got to have my old buddy become the manager. And they refused to sign any good players. And now all of a sudden, all of their dudes got lazy, had no work ethic, got injured, started to suck. The owner didn't care. He just wanted to make a buck. And now you're the worst team the sport has ever seen. So I hope everybody's happy because, you get what you pay for. You made your own grave. Now you got to lie in it. And there kind of would be something a little bit poetic about being in your own ballpark with a Cubs heavy crowd, getting your butts kicked to lose a 24th straight game and officially become the most embarrassing team that the sport of baseball has ever seen.
All right, so let's get to that game. If that happens and that situation comes, are you going to be pulling against the White Sox?
Once they've tied the record, they might as well break it.
Even if it's against the Cubs.
Dude, that would be perfect. You don't understand, Jack, where the fan base is right now.
I get it.
It's such a twisted spot where it's you almost have to root for them to go full tank mode, so embarrassed that they're just a disaster. Relegate them to AAA baseball, and they still would probably go under 500. By the way,
man, Nate Burner says, "I think I'm going to cry." And Sam, I mean, I feel for you, man. I feel this is a horrible sports situation. Lucas Burks says 0-14 on Monday, so maybe lock in every Monday and fade the Sox. I did see something where they're on pace to lose 123 games. That's the most since the 1890s.
They're already pushing the all-time record for blown saves in a year. I think they've blown 30 saves this season. But the crazy thing is they have blown 30 saves this season, and if you overturned all 30 blown saves and gave them a win in those 30 games, they're 57-58 still. They're still under 500. If you turn around 30 blown saves, that is crazy.
I should laugh.
No, I laugh at it too. And so we're kind of hitting this crossroads where White Sox fans don't really know how to feel. We've said this for a couple of years now, but it's genuinely more true than ever. nobody hates the White Sox more than White Sox fans. We hate our own team more than we hate the Cubs right now, more than we hate any of our division rivals. We hate our own team. We hate our own owner, our own manager, most of our own players. We hate them. And like, that's so weird that a professional sports team is legitimately there, but that's where we are. So
Wow.
shade on them. Sorry for the rant, man. Had to
No,
get
but I know
felt kind of nice
get it
to
out.
talk about it. I haven't talked about it all year, really. So
No, I know this definitely feels built up. So I'm happy to be here to help. I do feel like I should get paid at least like $15 an hour if I'm going to play therapy. You know,
Demetrius says maybe we can have another demolition night. Like, I think there is some momentum in Chicago right now for, like, if they do get to that game, like the Sox need to do something like Oakland did. Do you remember when the Oakland A's had that reverse boycott to boycott the team being moved? So they just
all
sold
the
out the
shirts.
stadium for a
Mhm.
week. Well, and they sold out the stadium to prove, like, hey, we can come to these games. I do think the White Sox need to get some sort of momentum going on the South Side to be like, oh, hey, Jerry, it's the fans' fault. Watch us sell out this random series against the Tigers in September. But anyways, I won't
Oof.
subject you
Yeah.
all to me ranting about a baseball team you
No, that's
probably know
look,
nothing about.
that's A to Z Sports Hall of Fame shade you just gave off. So that look, we went extra long today, and that's an absolute that's a Mount Rushmore shade from Sam Phelan this
All right.
morning. So good stuff there.
All right, guys, that's all we got for you today. Again, keep it locked on A to Z, man. I'm back at training camp tomorrow morning. Jack is back here on the morning show tomorrow morning. He'll be talking with Austin, and I will be talking with Titans head coach Brian Callahan, followed up by a practice with more video, more player interviews, more content galore on every social media platform. So like the show before you go, subscribe to the channel, keep it dialed in on A to Z Sports for your training camp content, and we will see you guys tomorrow.
Tighten up pod out at midnight.